Welcome to the Brown County Hour.
Coming to you from the legendary Hills of Brown,
where the plum purple haze,
the one nature herself drapes over the hills and hollers,
inspires local characters, artists, and nature lovers.
It's as though the hills themselves conspire to create a beauty and culture in the heart of Indiana.
Sit for a spell and hear the music.
Tall tales,
true stories,
and current goings-on.
Brought to you by folks who still know how to sit by a fire in winter
and swim buck naked in summer. Welcome to episode 81 of the Brown County Hour. This is Dave Seastrom.
And Vera Grubbs, along with the rest of the crew. This month, our musical guest is the Night Owl Country Band. We'll listen to some of their music and the interview we recorded in our studio. Dave Seastrom has a few words about fall leaves, and Rick Fettig shares some grit.
Carrie Ray is back with an on-the-road segment, and Jim Eagleman has a new nature news.
In our first segment, we'll hear our interview with the Night Owl Country Band. Jim Eagleman shares his essay called A Sense of Place. And we'll close with a live studio recording of the Night Owl tune, Snake.
So it's our pleasure to have the Night Owl Country Band with us this evening, and we've just been treated to three of their tunes performed live in our studio. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, tell a little about what you do and for the band and where you're coming from.
Steve Perdue, drummer, I guess percussionist if you want to count my cajon. Live in Columbus, Indiana. Been with the band 2.5 years or so. Just having fun, great group of guys. Love them like brothers.
My name's Tim Dooley. I'm originally from Columbus, Indiana. I live in Greensburg now, and I play lead guitar, harmonica, some background vocals. Is there anything
mandolin?
Else? A little bit of mandolin, yeah. Just happy to be here tonight. Thank you for having us on your show.
Our pleasure.
I'm Brett Denny from Columbus. I've been in the band for about 3 years. It kind of fell in my lap. Matt moved across the street from where I live. I heard them making a racket in the garage. I came over to tell him to turn it down. And they said, hey, join us.
But you came with your guitar.
I did. That's kind of weird. Matt's a really good friend of mine.
Oh, boy.
So,
Tissues.
But no, this has just been a great ride. I love it. And thank you very much for having us.
You are most welcome.
My name's Matt Lee. I'm a lead singer, bass player. I like to say I'm CEO of the band. I am the founder of the band. We came into existence in Halloween of 2015, so we are 3 years old now. We're glad to be here. Thank you for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to be on your show today.
Well, you are most welcome, and so apparently it was your garage that things got started in then.
That's where it all happened. Yep.
Uh-huh. I spent a bunch of time on your website today, and first of all, what a great website. It really went together so smoothly. I could click right through everything, listen to everything.
Yeah,
I almost bought some merch. That's how powerful it was.
Yeah. We had a guy that was doing our website. His name was Andy Clark, and he passed away earlier this year, so that hurt us all a little bit. And after he had passed, we decided we're going to go ahead and, instead of changing that website out, we decided we'd go ahead and let Tim Dooley do our website. And you can find that at www.nightowlcb.com. We appreciate Tim Dooley doing that. He did a good job on that.
He did. Obviously a multi-talented individual.
Well, thank you.
Speaking of talent, I noticed that you were nominated for Nashville Universe awards, Duo of the Year,
Yeah.
Male Vocalist of the Year, which is you, Matt, and then Songwriter of the Year, which is also you, Matt, and then Musician of the Year, Tim Dooley.
And best looking drum player.
And best looking drummer. Wow.
He's just trying to make me feel better.
Right.
No, we were blessed to be nominated for those. That was a nice surprise.
Well, your music is incredible, and I see that you're about to go to Australia. What did I count? 20 gigs in your slot coming up. I mean, you guys are working.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. We've been blessed to do a lot of things that other bands haven't been able to do. We've been able to play a lot of big stages. We've been blessed to keep busy. We usually do 2 shows a weekend, sometimes 3. I told them we'd never do 3 again, and it seems like we do 3 more than we do 2 anymore.
Most of it was 5, right?
Yeah, we did 5 in one weekend.
5? Man, you must have shook your own hands on as you was passing each other off, coming and going. I was looking into, again, your website. You mentioned, 3 of you mentioned, Matt, Brett, and Steve mentioned that you have a strong background in gospel music. That's a very traditional way of getting started in the world, singing in the choir as a kid and kind of coming up through all that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still in my home church that I was born and raised in, sung from the hymns. As a child, in the 80s that liked the hair bands, the hymns were a little boring to me. But then again, once I matured, those are the ones that really speak more to the heart. And what you also see, too, is almost every artist that you like, whether, country, rock and roll, blues, whatever, they end up still doing a gospel song or a gospel album. That's a big root.
Yeah, gospel music is in all of us' blood. Tim also does some music at his church. Steve and I had played in a gospel group for several years together. We traveled from all over the place, West Virginia, Indiana, Kentucky, all around the tri-state area. Yeah, it's kind of steeped in us. And what was kind of cool was when we was asked to play the Grand Ole Opry, they asked us to do a Ralph Stanley song. And the Ralph Stanley song that we chose to play was a song that me and Steve done together in the gospel band, I'll Live in Glory.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun for us.
No, this is, this has profound roots all the way into American music. I mean, it all begins with gospel, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, where did blues get started, Right. So, yeah, it's all interconnected. You guys are from Columbus, which is not exactly Brown County, but we consider you guys kissing cousins, and not in the disgusting way, of course. But yeah, we try to focus on Brown County, and we know you played here. Are you out in the country, or are you in town?
Out in the country. Steve's the only city boy.
But yeah. I'm looking to venture out.
You're gonna up your game and get out in possum country.
Well, a week ago, I was the only person that didn't have a beard.
Well, see how quickly you fix that.
For No Shave November, I thought, well, I've said I'm going to do it. And of course, the wife always ends up winning, and I shave it. So then I thought, you know what? I've got backing here. My boys got my back. All of Tim's got this beautiful thing here.
I got enough beard for all of us.
Yeah.
So I grow this out, and then we show up Saturday to do this wedding, and Matt's clean shaven. So.
Well, there goes uniformity then.
Yeah. So now we're back to 3 out of 4. But now the wife actually likes it, so.
Well, that's a plus.
Am I going to look like Tim? Probably not, because that's too much work. But back to the original thing, me and the wife are trying to get to the country, so get out of the big metropolis of Columbus. So.
And speaking of the Nashville, Indiana, we just played at 19th hole this last weekend.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're going to be there for New Year's Eve. So there's a little plug for New Year's Eve at 19th hole. Appreciate them booking us for that. We played out Big Woods. Used to be Big Busted Bar,
right?
And now it's called Hard Truth. We've played
Hard Truth Hills.
Yeah,
uh-huh.
We've played there occasionally too. So
did you sample any of the whiskey?
I can't say that if my mom's listening.
No, yeah. Well, I withdraw the question.
But we have tasted their pizza, which is really good.
Yeah, there you go. Great. So Australia, how'd you get this gig?
We hired a management team out of Spencer, Tennessee that is helping us along with that. They're getting sponsors for that, get us there and back, take care of our stay and all that. And then, of course, the places over there will pay us. So we're blessed to be a part of that and go over there.
Now, is this how because I noticed in your website you're hoping to expand your American playing beyond Indiana. Is the same group helping you with that?
They're helping us with that also. We've hired a booking agent on our own, and they've hired a booking agent for us also. So we're already expanded out to, we played South Carolina, Knoxville, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee. We actually go to Nashville quite often, down to Lexington. We're adding Louisville this next year, so next year we're booked in Texas. We're kind of starting to go a little bit everywhere.
Yeah, you guys are all over the place. So does this mean that you can quit your day jobs?
Not yet. The checks aren't rolling in quite yet.
Yeah, getting closer though. Hey?
We're getting close.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you have? The van? Do you have? How do you travel?
Truck, trailer, and then another vehicle or two is how we're doing it right now.
So the big bus is in your future, but not yet.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And if Coca-Cola is listening, we'd sure would like to have a sponsor for that. Yeah. We'd even let you put Coca-Cola on the side of that.
There you go. Might even drink a Coca-Cola or something.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny to see how many people volunteer to be our driver if we ever make it to that point of needing a bus.
Yeah.
Or just roadies in Australia.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had 16 or 17 applications for drum tech. None of them even know what drums are, but they want to be my drum tech.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, it's a real pleasure. Would you please announce your website one more time?
Yes, www.nightowlcb.com. Couple shows coming up that I would like to talk about is December 1st coming up real soon. We are going to be opening up for David Allen Coe at the 8 Second Saloon. Also, March 22nd, it'll be here before you know it. But we just had a show at the Commons. It was our 3-year anniversary. The Commons sold out. Had around 400 people there that night. So we was happy with that. So we wanted to also do another show, which we've been doing the last 4 years. We've been doing a benefit, and this year we're benefiting the Wounded Warrior Project. And that's March 22nd. Tickets will go on sale for that at the David Allen Coe concert, December 1st. And that is going to be Night Owl Country Band with Christian Davis and John Schneider from Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh,
so yeah,
there you go.
We're happy that he's gonna be coming this way.
Thank you guys so much for coming in. This has really been a lot of fun. And
Awesome.
Thank you.
you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Mannahatta is the Delaware and Lenape Indian name for the Manhattan Island, the most developed few acres located on the eastern U.S. shore and where the metropolis of New York City is located. It's also the title of a book I'm reading, A Natural History of the Manhattan Island, prior to settlement and when Henry Hudson sailed that major nearby water inlet on his many explorations. It's a book that so far has made me think of the changes that parcels of land have experienced, for that matter, any parcel of land. It's a little easier to imagine this place where we live, Brown County, Indiana, as having indigenous Americans traipsing across these hills and hollows, than it is to imagine what it is now New York City. There, concrete and asphalt have nearly covered every square inch of available real estate. Skyscrapers block out any remnant of sun, and the same river that Henry floated on is now a business waterway full of daily sightseeing boats, barges, and garbage transports. It's a difficult thing to imagine Manhattan Island having any natural area as part of its past, or close to it today, and yet it does. If you ever get to New York City, make sure you visit Central Park, that large rectangular space of green visible from any aerial shot of the place. It's a wonderful oasis in an otherwise foreign place for birds, chipmunks, and even deer. And it is this landmark the author wants us to keep in mind as what the entire island would have looked like if development had not ensued from the early 1700s on. My work at Brown County State Park as a naturalist for over 40 years required I know the history of the place, what took place there before it was a park, who farmed, homesteaded, or lived in its valleys and hollows, and of course, before them, what indigenous peoples occupied the land early on. I've talked before here on Nature Ramblings about these indigenous people who lived there, the same Delaware Indians, by the way, who inhabited Manhattan Island lived here, along with the Wea, the Piankashaw, the Illini, and the Iroquois. These woodland tribes splintered off from what was called the Algonquin Nation, centered around the Great Lakes, and they migrated south into the Midwest, living in caves during the winter and growing seasonal gardens as they hunted and fished for food. These tribes weren't always peaceful people, as we might imagine. They battled against each other for lands, livestock, and natural resources like flint and beaver, and they also traded back and forth for the same. And unlike pioneer settlers who came later to make life as good as they could for themselves and families and alter the entire look of the place, indigenous people were content to live very lightly on the land and with little change. About this time of year, as nighttime temperatures dipped, the temporary wigwam structure of bent-over limbs and branches, covered with large woven cattail mats, was abandoned. For a more constant temperature inside many caves in southern Indiana, the wigwam, and in some cases larger and longer lodges, worked well for seasonal living, but they didn't hold up well in snow and rain. Most evidence of winter occupancy by indigenous people has disappeared, taken by curiosity seekers and cavers over time, so little remains of their story. But a few places help document their time here, and we can determine with somewhat certainty their diet, tools, implements, and clothing. Knowing something about the people who lived here before us can help us appreciate the place a little more. At least I feel that way. It is said we can't know where we are headed until and unless we know where we're from. To some, the large natural area like Brown County appears like the indigenous folks might still be with us. I could almost agree when on misty mornings lately, I gaze out over the many overlooks and vistas in this county and see those wispy little cloudy spirals coming up for the lowlands behind the hills. It looks like the campfires of the Piankashaw are still burning, said a park visitor a few years ago. Where we're headed takes on even more meaning today. Election Day, November 6, 2018, as I tape this. Who we determine to make important decisions for us says a lot. Will they know the past like we do and appreciate it? Is it even necessary that they do? I, for one, think it is important that who I elect knows something about not only the people, but the place. A sense of place and where you are from, as author Wendell Berry writes, says as much about a person as who they are. And I bet a lot of Brown Countyans would agree. Jim Eagleman for Nature Ramblings, WFHB FM Radio, the Brown County Hour. Once again, thanks for listening.
We are Night Owl Country Band, and this is our original song, The Snake. Hope you enjoy it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
She is sitting in the back corner of that bar, looking so fine in her tight jeans and her boots, slithering her way to the dance floor with a strut. Hair done, face so pretty, eyes are forky tongue. She's a sneaky snake looking to strike. Venom from her bite feels so right. Her skin glistening in the neon lights. Stop my heart, look out for sneaky snake. Here she comes. As I play on the stage about to end the show, didn't know what I'd gotten myself into. As I tear down the quip, start to feel the constriction of her beautiful arms around my neck. She's a sneaky snake looking to strike. Venom from her bite feels so right. Her skin glistening in the neon lights. Stop my heart, look out for sneaky snake. Here she comes. She's a sneaky snake looking to strike. Venom from her bite feels so right. Her skin glistening in the neon lights. Stop my heart, look out for sneaky snake. Here she comes.
huge fans of original music here at the Brown County Hour, so we've put together a new page on our website called the Woodshed Sessions. It's live music from the artists we interview, recorded right here in our studio. Click on the New Music tab at browncountyhour.com.
Now we pause for station identification.
You are listening to the Brown County Hour on volunteer-powered community radio, WFHB, at 100.7 in Brown County, 91.3 and 98.1 in Bloomington, 106.3 in Ellettsville, and online at wfhb.org.
Segment 2 begins with a Carrie Ray on the road piece called Making Assumptions. Vera Grubbs shares her interview with Sharron and Jessica Bussart, who own and operate B3 Gallery Studio. And we'll hear the Night Owl tune recorded live in our studio, Anymore.
When it comes to women's rights and equality, I've always preferred to press forward by demonstrating personally how capable a woman is. Can I cook, clean, sew, garden, take care of a child, forage? Yes. Can I hunt, fish, fix the 12-volt system in the van, design and build a bed and storage bench, make a fire, carve a spoon, make a leather sheath for my knife? You betcha. Now, I spend a lot of time around folks who know me pretty well. People who don't make the mistake of thinking I won't understand things like the mechanical difference between natural aspiration and fuel injection, how to make the DVD player talk to the TV, or, in the case of this example, how to run a sound system. Dion and I were on tour and had arrived in Rochester, New York a couple of hours before load-in. We always like to check out points of interest on tour stops if time allows. As luck would have it, Rochester is home of Mount Hope Cemetery, the final resting place of two pretty famous folks. Renowned former slave, orator, and one of the founding fathers of the civil rights movement, Frederick Douglass, and the most famous of suffragettes and champion of women's rights, Susan B. Anthony. It's also one of the oldest Victorian cemeteries in the country and is home to 350,000 grave sites. So, of course, we visited. Douglass first. A placard akin to those National Historic Register ones, set on a post along the drive where the cinder path to his grave began. The path ended at the site. In addition to his original large red granite stone, was an altar tomb, measuring about 3 by 6 feet with large bronze lettering. He was resting beside his beloved wife, a fitting interment for an important individual to the history of our nation. Then we were on to find Susan B. Anthony, renowned suffragette and standard bearer for a woman's right to vote. The map got us to the general vicinity, and there was a small sign that let us know we were on the right track. A similar cinder path led from the paved road to protect tender grass from pilgrims. But it was there the similarities ended. That path did not lead to some obviously hallowed spot where a great patriot lay interred. In fact, it didn't lead to her gravesite at all, but led past it. And I did just that, walked right past. Far enough to realize I must have missed something. Circling back, there it was. A simple, thin, arched white grave marker. Looked almost like an overgrown chicklet sort of affair. She was buried next to her sister Mary, who had an equally unassuming stone. There were a few I voted stickers and buttons, a few notes and tokens of esteem, and a coin or two with her visage. That was it. No placard noting her life or accomplishments, no altar tomb, no pomp nor circumstance. Not, I would argue, a fitting interment for an important individual in our nation's history. Disheartening, if not surprising. So a few pics and we were onward to the venue. We were greeted by a nice enough fellow, let's call him Bill, who showed us where we could park and load in and prop the door for us. We headed inside to assess the PA situation. We asked Bill some questions about the system, and he seemed initially unable to answer them. So we looked things over and prepared to supplement accordingly, We then busied ourselves carrying in our equipment. Shortly thereafter, a young man who was to be our solo opener arrived. Bill greeted him likewise, and very quickly ushered him over to the mixing board to show him the basics of the sound system. While we looked on, initially dumbfounded, and then, like earlier in the day, a little disheartened, if not surprised. In the grand scheme of gender equality, equality of any kind really, this is no big deal. But as I thought about it, it's all of these little deals, all over the world every day, that would be easy to remedy and make a huge difference collectively. You see, as I said, Bill seemed a nice enough fellow, not some raging chauvinist, not some macho man with anything to prove, not a guy who makes a point of degrading or discriminating against women, just an average fellow who, like a lot of average fellows, doesn't realize that he has these hardwired prejudices regarding gender roles. Prejudices that have him assume a young man might know something about a PA system, but a couple of gals probably don't. Never mind the young man in question glazed over and had no idea what he was talking about, coming to us later to help him figure out how to set it up. Now, many of us, me included at times, spend so much time trying to enlighten or change the minds of those who solidly oppose our view, and then run around yanking at our hair and stomping our feet when they won't hear reason. What did we expect, really? That we would be the first to introduce them to some earth-shattering fact or facts, and they would thank us for bringing them out of the darkness? In my experience, those who hang out in the darkness do so because they like it there, and they are less likely to come out into the light than to try to toss a little darkness your way. So we go at it again and again, the vicious circle that spirals down from disagreement to anger and even to hatred. Sounds crazy, I know. I bet you've done it. But for every strutting bigot or chauvinist walking this earth, there are likely 1,000 average folks, men and women who unwittingly make decisions or behave based on gender-biased information, who profile other folks on a regular basis. You can insert race, ethnicity, culture, or any other discriminatory item in the place of gender. You're probably one of those folks. So am I. The most valuable thing about our little trip to Rochester for me wasn't noticing the obvious current and historic instances of inequality. Those are in my face and my newsfeed every day. No, it was reflecting on how easy it would have been for Bill to become aware of what he was doing and create a different result with a small shift. And then realizing how easy it would be for me to do the same, to get conscious and present to how I judge and assess others and how it impacts my interactions with them. So I say, let me be the straw that breaks the back of prejudice and discrimination. And I ask you to wonder with me what might happen if we all decided to be that straw.
This is Vera Grubbs for the Brown County Hour with WFHB. I'm here with Jessica and Sharron Bussert, and they have been together for a long time. They share children, a business, and an art form, and that being photography. How did this come about?
A long time ago, in the late 80s, I met Sharron at, of all places, a bus stop in West Lafayette, Indiana. And the rest, as they say, is history. We courted for a number of years and then decided to make it all official. I brought 3 kids into the relationship, and together we adopted 2 more. Why don't you tell a little bit about some of our adventures, Sharron?
Well, raising the kids was a big adventure. We lived in Lafayette when our kids were growing up and ran a computer consulting business. And as soon as the kids were old enough that we could do so, we attempted traveling with them. They were bad travelers. So we moved on to traveling without them because Jess and I love to travel. Together, Jess and I have been to 40 different countries and all of the states in the U.S.
What influenced you to come and make your home in Brown County specifically?
Well, that's kind of a funny story. So as Sharron mentioned, we run a computer consulting business for about a dozen years. And we enjoyed visiting Brown County, and we decided, why don't we buy one of these tourist rentals and use it as an investment property? Now, fast forward a number of years, we had been living and working in Europe, and when that engagement ended, we came back to the States, and the only place we had to come back on quick notice was our house in Brown County. We figured we'd only live there for, 6-7 weeks while we figured out what the next step was, and that's been a dozen years now.
It happens that way. Brown County just ensnares you.
In a lovely way.
It was one of the things we found interesting about this area is how people have come literally from all over the world and choose to be here.
Yes. So photography is your specialty,
Yes,
and you do it together.
we do.
How does that work out?
The funny thing is, we've always been kind of artsy-fartsy people. Sharron has been doing photography all her life, and I've been involved in just whatever media kind of struck my fancy in the moment. And then when we got together, we embraced photography together because we both enjoyed it and it was something we could share. And after shooting pictures together for 30 years, the joke is that we've forgotten who pushed the shutter release on this image or that image. And since sometimes one actually takes the picture and the other does the post-processing, we just made the decision to sign both names to everything we do, and we've been doing that for a long time.
Fantastic.
Anybody who's ever done darkroom work knows that there's an awful lot that goes on to making the final image after you push the shutter.
Yes.
So by co-signing our work, we're free to mess with each other's photos and make them a joint effort.
Why don't you tell about the first show we did up in Lafayette and our funny little signs?
Oh, so there was this little coffee shop in Lafayette, and this was when the kids were still at home and such, and we hadn't ever done a real show, and they were looking for people to hang things, and so we got together, 25 images or something, and hung them up in the coffee shop, and we wrote what we call our pretentious artist blurbs to go with each image. And after a while, you kind of run out of things to say, especially we had, I think it was flowers. It was quite a few flowers. And after a while, what can you say about a flower? So right in the middle of the show, we put up the blurb that said, well, this is supposed to be the pretentious artist blurb, but we couldn't think of anything else to say. And we could always tell who was actually reading them when we were at the coffee shop by seeing who just passed on by and who laughed.
I know you have a business in Nashville, and the name of that is?
We have 2 galleries here in Nashville. We own B3 Gallery, which we've owned for 6 years now. 4 months ago, we expanded and created Ascension Fine Arts. Ascension Fine Arts has more of a fine art focus, while B3 Gallery maintains its Nashville approachable content.
Do you have a website or two for your endeavors?
We do.
So for our photography, it is bussert.com.
And that's spelled B-U-S-S-E-R-T.
And for the gallery, it's b3.bussert.com.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me today.
Well, thank you. We appreciate talking to you, too.
This has been Vera Grubbs for the Brown County Hour with WFHB.
This is another Night Owl Country Band original song. This one was written by my friend Brett Denny here, as he's going to sing a song for you called Anymore.
I remember the moment like it was yesterday. My vision was blurred as you walked down the aisle. The love of my life was love at first sight. In your world, all I could do was just smile. But I don't love you like that anymore. Those promises and vows that I swore, as time moves on, this I'm sure. I don't love you like that anymore. The first person I think about when I wake up, on my mind all day long till I fall asleep. Like the sun in the sky, you light up my life. I'm addicted to you, I'm in too deep. But I don't love you like that anymore. Those promises and vows that I swore, as time moves on, this I'm sure. I don't love you like that anymore. You stole my heart, you took it and ran. By the grace of your love, I am a better man. I knew one day you would be my wife. With you in my life, I can never lose. I wouldn't change us for the world. Time after time, again and again, it's you I choose. But I don't love you like that anymore. Those promises and vows that I swore, as time moves on, this I'm sure. Every minute of every day, I love you more.
Now we pause for station identification.
You are listening to the Brown County Hour on volunteer-powered community radio, WFHB, at 100.7 in Brown County, 91.3 and 98.1 in Bloomington, 106.3 in Ellettsville, and online at wfhb.org.
Our final segment begins with a Night Owl tune from their CD, Here to Somewhere. Rick Fettig shares his observations on grit. Dave Seastrom offers a little perspective on fall leaves. And we'll close with a Night Owl tune that was recorded live in our studio, Modern Day Bonnie and Clyde.
Walking through the cemetery of my old looking at the tombstone, trying to forget their names. It's taken me a long time to get where I am. You're the baby is like a cool, gentle wind. I've been through hell, rain, and the snow, storms of life, sometimes of low. The waves that toss my life ship. You're the babes like a gentle wind. My poor heart beats like rain on an old tin roof. The old flames left scars. Lord, I show the proof. When you come in the room, you're like sun on a warm spring day. You're like cool, gentle wind that takes my breath away. I've been through hell, rain, and snow. The storms of life sometimes will blow. The waves that toss my life's ship. Your love, babes, like a gentle wind. I've been through hell, rain, and snow. The storms of life sometimes will blow. The waves that toss my life's ship. Your love, babes, like a gentle wind. You're like a cool, gentle wind. Oh yeah!
I haven't been on in a while, and that's because I've been doing some thinking. Now, I thunk up some stuff that I'm about to tell you, so you might want to sit down for a minute. Here goes. I was just at a weekend yearly camp out with some friends at Delaney Park near Salem. We got to talking about our first jobs. I inherited my first job from my older cousin. It was a grit, G-R-I-T, paper route. I either made 5 cents a copy, or that might have been all that the paper cost, or maybe it cost 15 cents. But the standard was to be 12 years old before anyone could get a route. But since I was recommended by my cousin who had the route, a sort of a pass-me-down situation, I got my first job as an 11-year-old. Not to mention my 2 younger siblings that were a job at times. Other than a hippie break in the 70s, I've been working ever since. What I'd like to talk to you about is the Grit newspaper. As I said, I was young when I had the route, but I remember the Grit as a good news sort of newspaper. There was general interest, gardening tips, and all around uplifting and informative articles. This is very important, and something I think we're missing these days. For good to win out, we have to seek it out. We have to quit getting drawn into the sensationalism. The TV news and media rarely tell us of good news. It's murders, car wrecks, fires, and anything alarming because it attracts our attention. We want to help, and we're concerned by nature. So we take a look, and we see what's going on. Then they've got us. They've learned how to use our natural response for their intentions. Get people's attention by talking about a house fire where a family could have gotten burned up, and then hit them with a commercial, because that's what pays their bills and salaries. Flip the TV channel, and there's a guy lying in a pool of blood. We watch out of concern, then a commercial. So we have to watch to see what happens, so they've got us for the entire show. The next thing you know, The Walking Dead is a popular series on TV. People are watching the negativity and violence without considering what those images are doing to our culture. Being exposed to such things as violence, stressful situations, drama, and such plants these visions and types of thoughts in our mind. The contrast would be watching successful yet peaceful and friendly communities and situations. This type of imagery can also be interesting, enjoyable, humorous, uplifting, and educational. Mayberry comes to mind, and Red Skelton. These were shows from days gone by that humor us and relax us and make us feel secure. That is, as I recall, what the Grit had to offer in print form. The definition of grit is small loose particles of stone or sand, and number 2, courage and resolve, strength of character. Like sand in the hourglass, we as a people keep flowing and moving as time passes. As the gravity of life works on us through time, we have the courage, resolve, and strength of character to move continually. Even as the world turns and the hourglass rotates to indicate the passing of more time, we clench our teeth from time to keep our resolve. But we must, with courage, keep our resolve in order to maintain our strength of character. And character is what we must have. Character, the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. If you see one, pick up a Grit. I think it's a magazine now. And be determined to exercise your courage with grit. True grit.
My wife and I love living in the forest. It's beautiful and peaceful, and it's hard to imagine living anywhere else. As soon as the fall colors appear, we know what's coming next. A huge amount of work that we like to call leaf time at the ranch. I suppose we could just leave those leaves to rot wherever they fall, and except for a couple of considerations, that might be the smartest thing we could do. Obviously, the leaves that land in the forest belong where they fall, and we never mess with them. Given my druthers, I just as soon leave all of them where they lie. But the leaves that cover the grass would kill the lawn. The ones that cover the driveway get crumbled up and become compost that causes weeds to grow in the gravel. And then there's the issue of catching rainwater from our roof for our domestic use. These compelling reasons are why, every fall, I'm out there moving leaves. Several years ago, it occurred to me that if I was moving all these leaves, I might as well do something productive with them. This began an activity that I'm still practicing to this day, composting the leaves. Leaf mold, as it's called, enriches the soil, and unlike manure, it doesn't have any weed seeds. This makes it ideal to add to the garden. The leaves are mowed and picked up by the lawn sweeper. Then they're transported to the compost pile where they are left to rot until the next fall. The following year, they are ground up by a baby tiller and shoveled off to the side to finish composting and to make room for this year's leaf crop. By spring, the previous year's leaves are ready to use in the garden. 3 years ago, in a concession to getting older, I decided to look into acquiring a backpack leaf blower. Leaf blowers, by their very nature, are loud and obnoxious creatures. For years, I doubted their efficacy and pooh-poohed the thought of owning one. After all, like my forefathers, I was a rake man. Then, one day, I happened to see one in action, and I realized that in the right hands, these things can do a lot of work. When I thought about what a leaf blower would be able to do on our roofs, I thought, hey, let's get one. And while I wouldn't describe our relationship as love, we certainly have become pretty good friends. Moving leaves begins at the top and works its way down. We have several roofs, and all of them accumulate leaves. The house roof is the one that really matters because this is the one that catches our water, and it needs to be clear if we want the water to be clean. The thing is, Becky doesn't want me to get on the roof anymore. The way I do it now is much easier than the way I used to do it. Back in the day, I would sweep the roof with a broom and sit on the edge, clean the gutters by hand, and rinse them out with a sponge. This was admittedly crazy, but it got the job done. Compared to sweeping the roof, a leaf blower takes a fraction of the time to remove the leaves. A few years ago, when we replaced the roof, we also replaced the gutters and installed gutter guards. And now the gutters never have leaves in them. So, yeah, I have to be on the roof to blow the leaves off, but I'm nowhere near the edge, and honestly, the job is safer than it's ever been. But Becky has a point. There's no doubt that one day I'll no longer be able to do this kind of work. But I've been blowing a lot of leaves this fall, and I knew that I could do it. Her idea of hiring a ranch hand is reasonable enough, and Lord knows there would be plenty for someone to do, but I doubt that person exists. It all starts by putting on the right shoes. We have 2 different roof surfaces. The house has a granulated steel roof that's easy to walk on whether it's wet or dry. The barn, carport, and workshop roofs are all painted steel, and they are only safe to walk on when they're dry. Wearing soft-soled shoe increases traction, which makes all the difference in the world. Putting aside any heebie-jeebies and dismissing the willies, I set the ladder, fired up the backpack, and ascended to the top of the house. Moments later, cascades of dry leaves were flowing off the roof and accumulating in great mounds on the ground below. The work was tricky, but deeply satisfying. Moving leaves with a leaf blower is almost like invoking psychokinetic powers that you didn't know you had. In other words, it's like you're moving them with your mind. When the house roof was finished, I blew the leaves from the porches and stairs and pushed them away from the house where they were processed by the lawnmower. Then it was on to the carport roof. I carefully inspected the roof for any signs of moisture and felt the surface with my bare hand just to be sure. A moment later, I was dancing across the roof as leaves were joyously flying away. This answers the question. Is Dave still nimble enough to scamper onto the roofs wearing a leaf blower backpack and survive? Yes, at least for one more year. This is Dave Seastrom. See you next time.
This is a Travis Tritt cover, modern day Bonnie and Clyde.
It's a long way to Richmond, rolling north on 95, with a redhead riding shotgun and a pistol by my side. Tearing down the highway like modern day Bonnie and Clyde. We met at a truck stop, Johnson City, Tennessee. I was gassing up my fiber when I heard her calling me. She said, "Which way are you headed, boy? Do you need some company?" She had me stopping at a Quick Mart before we made it out of town. Next thing she's running at me, telling me to lay that hammer down, 'cause there's a man right behind me doing his best to slow me down. Yeah. It's a long way to Richmond, rolling north on 95, with a redhead riding shotgun and a pistol by my side. Tearing down the highway like this modern day Bonnie and Clyde. bag, smoking them stolen Marlboro Lights. Lord, we never saw them come until they read us both alright. Hey, it's a long way to Richmond, rolling north on 95, with a sheriff right beside me, pistol pointed at my side. Such a disappointing ending for this modern day Bonnie and Clyde. It's such a disappointing ending for this modern day Bonnie and Clyde.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 81 of the Brown County Hour, recorded in our studio at the History Center here in downtown Nashville and brought to you the first Sunday of every month at 9 a.m. and the following Wednesday at 6 p.m.
The Brown County Hour is brought to you by a diverse group of folks who believe, now more than ever, the world is for everyone.
This show was produced by
Chuck Wills,
Pam Rader,
Rick Fettig,
Vera Grubbs,
Jim Lemon,
and Dave Seastrom. We would also like to thank Slats Klug for our theme music. You have been listening to the Brown County Hour,
coming to you from deep in the woods of Brown County, Indiana.
celebrating the arts, culture, and nature that make this such a unique community.
Visit us online at browncountyhour.com.
The Brown County Hour is a production of WFHB.
Volunteer-powered, listener-supported community radio for South Central Indiana.
Take me back to my old Brown County home.